Minutes and I'll go the second 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds
Let's
good
do
to
it. Okay, cool.
me. Cool. Hi, hello. We're here at the global preview event for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Joined by Jorg Neumann, and over in the background we've also got
Sergio's over
Sergio
there.
as well. So you might chime in with some stuff. I don't know. So it's been 5 years since the first global preview event for 2020. And then we're going to talk about 2024, but I want to reminisce just a little bit. Compared to then and where you are now, how are you feeling? What's the vibe like? Are you excited about kind of that journey you've had to where you are today?
I mean, it's been, I can speak for myself, it's been the best 5 years of my career, no doubt. I've been making games for 30 years, and I think it all comes down, and I mean that, to the community. The appreciation, the know-how, and then with the know-how comes appreciation for what we do. And even when we misstep and we do something not quite right, I think there's sort of an understanding and a forgiveness as long as we try hard. And that is great. It really is something else. I oftentimes say this to my colleagues, that there is nothing like flight simulation. There really isn't. And I think it makes me happy. It makes us happy that people are happy, right? Ultimately, we do this for the community. And I think the appreciation level went up and up and up, but because people saw, hey, they actually mean it. They try hard, they work hard, but when there's something wrong, they try to fix it. I think that makes all the difference, and I feel very. I said that in the presentation earlier today. I said it's a love story in the making, and I feel that way.
I mean, you mentioned community, and based on what we saw earlier, the difference I think I saw anyway was you guys had built 2020 very much in a confined or in your silos and stuff with Microsoft and Sobo, whereas 24. The amount of third parties you kind of mentioned and all these community members and the fact we've got Working Title, we've got friends here today, kind of, I think expelled that community-driven prospect for you guys.
I heard something, I forgot who said it, early on, so before we released 2020, we reached out to some of the third-party teams. I remember PMDG and, Flight Tampa, those types of, we called them and said, hey, well, Microsoft, we're making this new sim. And what was interesting, the most memorable thing for me was when people said, wow, this is the first time anybody from Microsoft called us. I've been in aviation, in digital aviation for 20-something years. You guys were always in an ivory tower. And I said, well, I don't like that. I mean, ivory tower doesn't sound good as a concept. So I think that always stuck with me, that people felt that way. Because Microsoft, it's a big company, it's one of the biggest companies in the world. It could feel anonymous, like it's a machine, but we're not. We're just people, right? And I think that it meant a lot to hear that. And then ever since then, I tried to live by what I said. We're going to listen to the community. And then as I met more and more creators, right, when we did the planes and stuff, the passion that they put in makes everything better. And we couldn't do this. Like Sobo, we had 100 people there, 20 in Microsoft. We couldn't have done anything near this, right? And it was funny. We had a conversation, just the three of us, yesterday, except David and I, and we said, how does it compare, your very question, to the GPE1 presentation? And we said, we didn't really show that much. That was actually the thing that we remember. It's what did we actually show there? Some VR stuff, one video of the world. Leonel was there talking about the world is big, but in this presentation today, we had to cut so much stuff. We couldn't even talk about entire sections of the product because it's so vast. We went into every speech. We didn't even talk about speech at all. And it's a hugely cool feature. Player voice, you can record your own voice and stuff. We didn't talk about it at all. So and that's the fascinating thing. The only way we got here is because we relied on experts. Right? Could we make, over time you can learn anything, but it takes decades. So no, let's work with people who know, and essentially shortcut, because the community had advanced further. When I said, hey, why do we not have any obstruction, for example, in the world? And then I talked to Holger over at Orbex and said, well, Puff and Flight is working on this. Oh, really? And so this husband and wife team had worked on obstruction for years.
Yeah.
And they had done a bunch of work. It's hey, you guys want to work with us? And they're delighted. They're delighted because everybody feels like they're contributing to the hobby in a more direct way.
And I think we saw a lot of that in your presentation, and you mentioned quite a lot about the digital twin, kind of V2 we're kind of transitioning into. Just very quickly, what are some of your favorite parts of this whole new digital twin? I mean, we looked at dynamic life, we looked at the static stuff. I mean, what we saw earlier is just visually impressive, but how will that affect?
I think ultimately, the thing that always I go back to, the hobby of flight simulation is all about realism, authenticity, accuracy. And the planet we had, we have a weather forecasting system from Video Blue, but it's a forecasting system. It's sort of like turn on the weather channel and see if the weather's right tomorrow. Like kind of hit and miss. The world there's a truth to the world. And the world, for example, the animals, we don't just stick some animals somewhere on the ground and say, hey, Africa is full of giraffes. That's not how we do it. What we do is we actually know where the giraffes are, how many there are, what the density is, if they migrate, and we make all that. And with that, you appreciate the planet for what it is. Just like when simmers go super deep on systems on aircraft, I would like the same for the digital twin, because then there's a truth to it. And there was this epic debate. I know I always go on animals. Like, its rarity is a thing, right? There was somebody right in the room, and they flew kind of to the photographer mode and said, I'm trying to find the giraffe. Is there a bug? Because I can't find any. No, it's rarity. There's not giraffes everywhere. And when you find it, it's a special moment. You will remember that. And so I think that's what I'm after, really, with the digital twin. I think we can get it. We can really do a digital twin of Earth.
So you mentioned the photography mode, so that's one of the kind of surprise. We've seen it in the trailers, but we weren't sure how it kind of worked in the sim, so it's a nice surprise today. Do you think you're balancing, because you talked about core simmers, you talked about your gamers, and you also talked about the
digital tourists.
How do you think you're balancing kind of all of those so that everyone can feel involved with this flight simulator?
I think a lot, when I say 15 million people tried it, they found things they liked. And simmers know everything about flight simming. I always literally say there's a sandbox, and the simmers come with a shovel, and they already have a plan. They probably drew a plan at home. They just build their thing, right? You don't need to tell them anything. And then there's somebody just walking by who's like, oh, sandbox, that looks fun. But they have absolutely no idea what they want to do. And so you need to give them onboarding ramps of just discover it for yourself, Like now we have these ultralights. I'm very curious, because I talked to so many people that said, I love the digital twin, I love what flight sim is, and that I can visit the planet, but I'm really worried about these aircraft. I don't want to crash on the ground, they don't want to feel bad about what they do. But then now you have vehicles that I think are so accessible. You don't need a pilot's license for any of these things early on. The ultralights, you can just go.
Yeah.
And I ultimately, I think what the goal should be is that people can experience this digital Earth however they want to, but we are a flight simulator. So I would like there to be more people can actually fall in love with aviation. That is really the goal. And you need the tutorials we had didn't do it. We know this for a fact. People did them, they forgot right away what they just learned, and then they moved on and still thought airplanes are from Mars, and I'm not on Mars, so therefore it's not for me.
Yeah.
I think we have a better chance now to actually people appreciate aviation, fall in love with it, stay with it, and then we actually add it substantively to the hobby.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to ask you a bit of a tricky question now.
Oh yeah.
Never thought I'd be asking you this a year ago, but with the video game industry kind of changing a little bit, and especially with Xbox diversifying where their franchises are going in terms of platforms, and we're talking about wanting to expand into more territories, are you thinking of other platforms in the future, or is that?
I think there's an openness now that exists from our leadership that actually opens doors. Where we talk, what do I would say? I am a consumer-related person, right? So I would like to understand where the people. We have not ever shipped in China. There's no flights in China at all. It's the biggest country in the world as far as population. And they actually, when I talk to companies like Boeing or Airbus or something, they always say China is that's the place that needs 400,000 pilots. They're missing 400,000. Where are they going to come from? Not from some flight schools or big level D simulators. There's not enough of these things. So we need to onboard people and get them engaged in aviation just to make our planet go. So I think about it more that way. Obviously there's some countries that we're currently not even releasing in because of geopolitical stuff. That to me is 2 billion people that we have never spoken to. There's 1 billion people in Africa. 1 billion people. Most of them are younger actually when you look at the demographics. Do they have on-ramps? And that's why I'm going to try it with stuff like world updates. And the goal is, we'll make a world update. Let's go to South Africa. Let's talk to kids in schools. Give some free copies to STEM programs so they get involved. And that's how I think more than platforms. Platform for me is a different piece of plastic, slightly different processor.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's to reach the people where they live.
Oh, cool. Well, I think just, from the limited time we've had today and like the presentations, you can see there is definitely a sense of really wanting to expand and keep people engaged and, very excited for the future. 10 minutes goes so fast.
I know.
And I'm going to hand you over to Sergio because I'm sure he's got a bunch of questions.
Bye. Now come Sergio questions.
Did you want to sit here or are you?
No, I'm okay. Yeah.
Actually, we can expand you 5 more minutes. We can go 15 because we have a small little break.
Yeah, go.
After this,
Awesome.
you have
We
5
can
more
go longer.
minutes.
You sure?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I shouldn't say that to Callum, but I'm reading FS Elite every morning. It's one of those sites I go to every morning.
It's on camera now.
Oh, it's on camera.
I'm not
Oh, hey
editing
guys!
that.
I actually read
Not editing
FS. No. I read your analysis of Frankfurt Airport just this morning, as a matter of fact. I'm biased. I'm from Frankfurt,
Oh, okay. So I want to draw a parallel back to when 2020 came out. So it released at the very beginning, really, of the pandemic, where people couldn't go outside. So releasing a flight sim where the whole world was there was kind of like this pop culture moment. And, I think it got a lot of people interested in seeing this planet in this world because we couldn't go outside. 24 is coming out in a couple months' time. What do you think the reason people will come back to discover this new world?
I think I assume, maybe wrongly, but I assume Simmers understand just how much we're putting into this new sim, and they will see that it's really advancing the hobby for the core simmer. I think for other people, you're right. I think it's a little bit more difficult to get their attention. The good news is, when the few studies we made on this, people when they left Flight Sim felt great about it. So it's almost like the exit when sometimes in movies they do this, right? What's the walkout score? The walkout score is awesome. It's just that they didn't advance their aviation career. They kind of had what I had. Like the TBM looks scary. I'm like, okay, this is a different level of commitment if I really want to learn deep systems. So I think a lot of things, it will come down to, do we pique their curiosity? I think they have good memories. And if we show that we've listened to them, that's to me always the thing. Did you listen to what these people actually liked and what they need? And I think we try to give them what they need. That's why the Discoverable, I call it the collectible planet. Like it was actually based on Animal Crossing and Pokemon Snap. Those are the two things I basically said, that and that.
Yeah.
Because why? I played Animal Crossing. It's a game that has a 365-day thing. I bought the book and I collected every damn thing in Animal Crossing. I actually made some videos. And people like collecting things, and I think the planet. I spent a month in South America when we first launched, and I've never been to South America in real life, and it was great. Like discovery, I'm like, this is awesome, this is an awesome thing. And I said, would I go back to do the same thing? Go to South America? I said, you need to give me more. So we had to add more, make it collectible, understandable. I want to learn something. There's sort of a self-improvement aspect to all this. When you understand, oh, this is the Rio de la Plata, right next to Buenos Aires. That's kind of interesting. I've never been to Argentina. I have no idea, right? But it's interesting, and you learn. As a kid, I had a globe and atlases, and I thought it was wonderful. And just always the faraway places. It's always mythical. And I think Flight Sim has a little bit of that. But you can jump there quickly, and you can dive right in.
Yeah.
Look at a valley. Your curiosity is your limit, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So I think I think people will check it out again, and hopefully they will find something they love, and maybe they stay a little bit longer this time.
Excellent. Right, I am definitely because I know he's burning with questions. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate your time.
Okay. Callum, what I'm going to do, I'm probably not going to repeat some questions or ask questions to Jorg that I know that his answers are going to be repeated. I'm going to ask him other things. If you're okay, I will just take excerpts of what he just replied to you, and you can do the same with my questions.
Collaboration, I love it.
I think it's
nice.
It's why we get along so well. Jorg, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your incredible presentation. Thank you very much for bringing 2019 back to me again, like I told you. I am leaving Grand Canyon with the same feeling that I had back in 2019
awesome.
for the first global preview event. Now, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is coming, or as I call it, Microsoft Flight Simulator, the helicopter edition is coming.
There's a lot of helicopters. It's partially because of you.
Yes. There's a lot of helicopters. There's a lot of different things to do as well. Do you feel like this is a version where everything is starting to come together, already come together, or do you see anything else in the future regarding with the kinds of missions?
I think we're just at the beginning of a huge change in computing. Like I was curious if people would ask me this. I think AI will change us more than we think. I think everybody sort of acknowledges AI as a thing, but I actually think it's going to change how we make games. I also think it's going to change how we play games and where it really is all going. And I think there's going to be different bridges to cross. This time, I think we did a lot of work to get the planet to look much more accurate than what we could do before. And I think that's great. And are we going to iterate on this? Sure. Whatever. At some point, that's just data. But I think there are things that we haven't even touched on yet with AI that I think are going to be just fascinating. And I think that's, so do I think we're at an end point or something? No, I think we're at a beginning point. That is very fundamental. How games are built, what's in it, how you interact, what is the logic of it all, I think and it's very hard to predict where this is all going. Seb and I sometimes talk about these things, right? Because we're sort of trying to think ahead where technology takes us, and it's obvious, like co-pilots and stuff like that. Yeah, no doubt, like that. But that's very obvious. I think there are some things that are completely unobvious that I think are going to come our way.
Yeah. Tell us a story. Back, I know I'm talking about 2019 again, but there's a reason. Back in 2019, you told us a story of how Microsoft Flight Simulator was to come, because no one was expecting it to be announced or to for a new version to come out. You told us a story. Told us sort of how things went with Discoverable, the projects behind it. Is there a story for 2024? I mean, I have to be honest with you. I didn't come to this presentation skeptical, but I was wondering what else you could do to the sim to make it so much better than 2020, because 2020 is absolutely an amazing piece of software. And I wasn't very sure about what 2024 would bring. Is there any story behind, or do you think it's just the evolution of what you were doing?
No, so some of the things are evolutions. Like I think the technical things on the core sim side. I mean, at some point or another, you can simulate almost any system, and as long as you have enough compute power, you can do it. So a team are certainly smart enough. With Chris and the working title guys, they're coming from a totally different angle. They're all pilots, and they want to get the pilot experience right. So that's cool. Like I love that. I really want to support it. That's why I sent them on this journey and said, hey, you know what? Like I think we need to get people to. So many people don't even know what charts are. So at some point, you can't even do a flight plan, So let's make that in the base sim. But I think that's all pretty evolutionary. The revolutionary things, I think, are speech is going to be revolutionary. And as I said, I'm a little bit sad that we didn't talk about it today. I mean, I tell you here, there's something called Pilot Voice. First thing you do, I don't know if you tried it.
I saw
you have a microphone. I think you record something for 5 seconds. It takes your voice. Any communication in the sim, you to ATC, is going to be with your voice.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
okay.
Oh, I couldn't think of anything
Oh,
worse.
no, it's awesome. Because right now you get confused even who's speaking.
True.
There's auto localization, translation happens, right? It goes text to speech, goes into any language. It brings the planet together in a way that I think is completely unprecedented. I think that's a wonderful new thing. And beyond that, I think the story I would tell is the story of for the community with the community. I think we're cognizant. I think it was very important to open up communication channels and to actually listen, not just say you're doing it. You actually have to read this and listen and understand what people are saying. And then the fact that we have partners that are further along and have know-how, we would never get there. It's impossible. There's not a single person that I know, anyways, that knows everything. But when you say, how can we take this further? I mean, there's people make airport sims now. It's a completely different thing. But could it be in flight sim? Should it be in flight sim? I don't know. It could be, for sure. So I think in some ways the sandbox analogy goes the other way as well. It's not just for the consumer, it's also for the creators. I think that's the strength of this. People can do stuff on Earth that makes sense. Some are directly aviation related, some are not aviation related. But if we are open-minded enough and allowing them to be creative in that context, I think that's going to change things a lot. And I think that's the beginning of this. There's a couple of games that do this type of thing, but the outcomes are totally different. Roblox does it, Minecraft does it, but it doesn't converge back. They actually just make experiences that are different experiences. That's not what I'm talking about. We are simulating the world and life and what's in it. What do we do here as a species? We can, if we are open enough, we will bring all kinds of people in. That will take us further than anything.
That's sorry. Yeah, that's. I think that no, it's okay. I think that's pretty much what the community sees as well. All that effort and all the different things coming together, and I think that's what excites the community. And well, at least from what I heard after the presentation today, it excites everyone in from our side of the industry at least.
We get excited. You mean? I mean, I met Brandon. I met Brandon. I was like, man, that guy was cool. You know, and he really cares. And he loves bush planes. Like, yeah, of course we should let that team make bush planes. Of course we should.
Yeah,
they're
makes
better
sense.
than what we can do. Like, because it's their hobby.
Yeah, makes sense. We saw a lot of different things that even you talked about it, Flight Sim Expo. I was very excited. I was really excited again to see today, about having ships and helipads finally, and all the other stuff that you are managing to get information from. And there was someone from the community that asked a question that I think it was pretty interesting. Because it was interesting for me because I think it was probably one of the easiest things, well, not easiest, but when comparing with the others, one of the easiest things to do, and I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere, which
Okay.
is trains.
Oh boy. So I research trains. I actually know the guys that make train sim, and I know the guy who makes the models for train sim because he's an art director that I used to work with. Trains are not a internationally standardized thing. It's the first thing you need to know. And then trains also, if you want to do it right, then you need to get the train tracks right, different widths as you probably know, and then you need to get all the tunnels right. And then I think you get to a level of, I grew up in southern Germany, right? So I took trains to Switzerland and things. It's beautiful. And I'm sure England is beautiful. Like, I haven't just been in trains that often in England. But you get so close to the ground in an elongated thing that you really need to curate this to make it meaningfully right. And I think it's not impossible to do. If the train sim guys call us and say, hey, we want to integrate train sim somehow into flight sim, that's just completely aligned with what I just said. I would say, okay, you know your stuff. That sounds great. For us to do a great job for train sim, I think it would be a big, big endeavor. And right now, I still don't feel comfortable. Even though I put the little thing in the trailer, I couldn't resist, right? The banner that says the sky's not the limit. That just to say, we have an open mind. We have an open mind. Doesn't mean we're good at it. So I think we need to be good at something. Because the one thing I don't want to do is make something haphazard.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to reach a certain level of sophistication. I think we owe that to the community, that we actually we get the flight simming component of it all correct. Like, if I hear one more time this flight model isn't any good, well, I'm going to keep trying again and again and again until we have it right and everybody says so. I just don't really feel like the team should go off track at this point in time. There might be a point in time, but this is not the point in time. Like right now, we're launching 10 weeks out, not much time. We'll learn, we'll listen, we'll get feedback. We got stuff wrong, I guarantee it. And then I think that is where we should spend our next at least few years before we even entertain something else.
About 1 minute.
Okay, so really quick, Jorg, one of the things that I saw at the presentation was about the fact that the new marketplace has the ability for us to have a free day or a free amount of time for a certain model.
People can do that. Like, you have to opt in as a creator, because we don't own their
But
things, right?
Are we finally getting freeware as well?
It's actually not touchy. There is freeware in the marketplace. It's just not a ton of it. Like, there is freeware. You can get it right now. Like, for example, the Seafront simulation guys have their standard chip models. It's in there. It's free. You don't have to buy it. You just download it. I have never been. I'm actually one of the big. I would say I'm probably the biggest proponent of freeware. There are some things that we have some restrictions on, which have something to do with data, with the sharing, with the, is it under which what is governing the freeware? Because there are some clauses in there that if you let freeware into your product, you actually have a shareback clause. We need to be a little bit careful. So I got some guidance. That's the only I had a great initial set of relationships with the fly-by-wire guys. I think their plane is awesome. Like, it really is something else. Same with the 757 that's being made right now. There's a 767 that looks awesome. I would love all of them in the marketplace, but if I'm legally not allowed to do that, what am I supposed to do? The lawyers, I gotta have to listen to them, right? They're there to protect us all. So, but generally speaking, we are no longer blocked by how much content we funnel through. We had really not enough people. Let's just be honest. Her name is Mabel. she was the army of one, and we actually had to hire a team to handle all this influx of content. It's no longer a problem. So we could take in, if things are legally cleared, we can do it, and I want to do it. This whole thing with renting, I think people have different price resistances in their hearts when they say, do I really want to buy an airport? Lots of people prepare to buy an airport for $20, $30. No, I don't think so. I think just look at the reality. Not that many people buy it. But what if you can rent it for 3 days, and it's like $1? Why is that? And maybe they say, oh, this is so great, I'm going to keep it. I have that with movies all the time. Like I rent a movie because I don't want to, miss it in the movie theater. Don't want to watch. Don't want to burn $20, even though I could, I guess. But so I rent it, and when I like it, then I oftentimes say, okay, I'll buy this for good. And I can tell you, I get very mad at the company that runs cable in Seattle because the rental price goes away and you have to basically pay the full price again. It makes me so angry. It's like really now? So we actually don't do that. I think there's a certain time component, but if you said I rent it for $5 and it costs $20, the $5 should be deducted.
That is good. That is nice.
Yeah, because the movies make me mad.
Thank you
All
very much,
right.
Jorg.
I hope
Thank
it
you
was
so much.
interesting. It's good to see you guys.